Facebook and on YouTube right now. All right. Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is MMM Conference. I am Reverend Dr. Ufalake Ike, and MMM just means this is a time where we talk about, marriage, motivation, mental health. But today we are talking about grief because a lot of people do not know how to manage grief. I don't know if anybody can. I don't think it's something that we all want to deal with, but we all have to deal with grief in some kind of way. Grief is not only when you lose someone, you experience grief whenever you lose even yourself. You lose a job, you lose um, a person that is close to you, you lose a position, and we always grieving. A lot of people do not know why they feel the way they feel after a loss of something. Sometimes people don't even know they lost something. I remember when I came to the US, and I always, I'm used to being very busy. I go to church every Sundays. I preach like sometimes 3 times. I preach on Friday nights. I have meetings with people. I see people all the time. Whenever I'm not in Ibadan, even when I'm in Lagos, people come around. So I was used to seeing people around me. When I came to the US, I didn't know what was going on. Initially, I thought, I'm I'm resting now. Yes, you know what? I can do whatever I want to do. I don't need, anybody, asking me questions. I don't need to cancel people. I don't need to preach 3 times a week. I don't need all those things. But I suddenly started falling into depression. Why? Because a time came, I'll wake up in the morning as early as I usually would, and I would discover that I have nowhere to go. I'll discover that nobody is waiting anywhere for me. Nobody is there to listen to anything I have to say. I suddenly discovered that I was reading the Bible, but I just needed to just understand it by myself, do it by myself, and that's it. It was later that I understood that something was going on, with me. I stopped being myself. I lost who I used to be. I was no longer the vibrant person. I was, smiling less. I was always getting upset. I was grieving, and I didn't know I was grieving. So it's not just when you lose people, you do lose people. Also, grief is not only when you have lost someone. Sometimes the thought of losing someone or losing a position or leaving a particular office, maybe you want to go from one company to another, you may start experiencing grief in your life. Why? Because you know that it's no longer going to be the same. And you suddenly start going through the stages of grief, which we're going to be talking about. Pastor Doka is here to help me out with this grief experience. But all I want to let you know is whenever you suddenly feel that you're about to lose something, or after you have lost something, your life is no longer the same. You will sometimes start living in denial. That is usually the first stage of grief. You start living in denial, and some people will say, what is denial? You may have difficulty accepting that a loss is real. I've seen people who stopped working in a particular place, and they keep driving to that place. They can't believe they're no longer there. I've seen people who lost a relationship, and every day they're texting the person, they're talking like nothing has happened. I've seen people lose people to death, and they keep laughing, they're enjoying themselves because they don't want to accept that this is happening to them. It is the first stage, the first level of grief where you don't want to accept it. And so you're still living your life like you haven't lost that position. Like I said before, whenever I relocated, initially, I still thought I still had it. I still thought, okay, people are still going to be there. Sometimes I would try to call. Sometimes I want to see if I can be part of the service. It took me time to know that no, somebody else is already there and the person is taking care of the people as much as I would. But it was hard. I kept thinking I was still part of that place. So it took me a long time to settle down. I had my bags always, packed. I used to travel back to Nigeria like, 3-4 times every year. It was difficult to accept my present, state, that I was no longer there and I needed to begin to live like that. When I lost my mom as well, I had the issue of accepting it. So I wasn't crying like every other person was crying. I just felt, okay, so I was going to wake up from that dream and my mom will be there again. So the first stage is you go into the state of denial, and then you become angry after a while. Once it starts dawning on you, you start becoming angry. And so there are a lot of people that tell me, that they relocated and their children became very angry, they became defiant. They don't understand that the children are trying to adjust to the new lifestyle. They have lost their friends. They're no longer in the neighborhood they used to be. Their room does not look the same. And then they don't have, they don't see the trees that they used to like when they open their windows and things like that. So they begin to grieve. They begin to grieve. I need you to understand that, when people lose things, they grieve. You may be living with someone, you have a co-worker that started acting very angry. I want you to find out, have they lost something? And if you as a person also, you're getting angry, even though you haven't lost an individual, maybe you've not lost a relationship, but you find yourself in this angry situation. Sit down and ask yourself, am I grieving something? Why am I angry? So that will help you to take care of it. That will help you to seek help. Now you have an insight to why you are angry. And then you'll get to a stage where you begin to bargain. Bargaining is part of the anger. Have you lost a relationship before where you began texting and saying, you know what, I'm in therapy now, and now I'm a Christian, I've stopped drinking, and things like that. You're trying to bargain. You want back what you lost, and you don't want to give it away, so you're thinking it will come back. In terms of death, you start telling God, if not, you see, if you allow this person to return to me, this is what I'm going to do. These are all ways of bargaining. You may imagine reaching an agreement so you don't have to deal with a loss. You may also regret past actions that you imagine could have spared you from that loss. Sometimes you say, oh my God, if only I've made up with this person, maybe the person wouldn't have died, and things like that. You are just in a state of grief. That's what is happening. You are trying to see how you can make up for what you never did before the loss happened. Like I told you before, it may not just be loss of someone. It can be loss of yourself, a loss of a job, a loss of a house, a loss of a relationship. Whatever makes you feel uncomfortable, whatever makes you feel like something is not normal, I've seen people go into a divorce. I mean, even though the other person was abusing them, that doesn't mean you're not going to grieve. You're still going to grieve because you're going to lose your life with that person. It doesn't matter what was happening, but you're going to go through a state of, denial, you're going to go through anger, you're going to go through bargaining, and then you're going to get to a level where you're going to be depressed. This is a part where it's very important you seek help. It's very, very important. You'll be so sad. The sadness will be so painful, you don't know what to do with yourself. And then you may experience that complex emotions, and and you can become detached from people. You don't want to talk to anybody. You just want to be by yourself. I see everyone here. I see Jack. I see Cream. I see Shahan. I'm happy that all of you on this broadcast today. We're talking about grief and grief recovery and the stages of grief. We're saying this today because you may be grieving. Maybe that's why you're very angry, or you're usually detached from people. You want to be by yourself. You don't want to talk to anyone. I've seen people who were abused, even in their family of origin by their parents, and they had to move away, but they began becoming depressed, they're angry, and they don't understand those emotions. They felt, well, I'm no longer where I used to be, but why am I feeling this way? Is grief. You're grieving where you used to be. You're grieving that situation, you're grieving that place. And if you're able to get through your depression, you will get to a place of acceptance. And that's where we want you to get to, where eventually you embrace the reality of the loss. Even when the pain is there, you still embrace it. You now know that, okay, so this has happened. I had to embrace it. I started, living my life. I stopped calling so much. I stopped inquiring about what was going on in the church. Before I want to know what is going on, who led the praise and worship, who did this, I just stopped it. That was when I accepted, okay, so I am no longer there. Some other people are there, and they're doing very great where they are. And so the same way depression is treated in other situation is the same way it's going to be treated. If it's possible for you to go on an antidepressant, please do, so that you don't become suicidal, or you don't stop working like you should, because you're going to get to a level where you'll be back, you'll be behind on your bills because of the loss, and you don't know what is going on. It also goes with what we call the adjustment disorder. There's some kids, because they move from one place to other, they start bedwetting. It's because they are grieving. And I want you to know that this is part of grief, and if you embrace it and you accept it, you'll be better. Pastor Odoka, are you there? Pastor Odoka is here today to also help us and share with us what she knows about grief. Pastor Odoka.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Yeah.
Everyone. So let's speak to this point. Alright, so I'll just dive into you've just broken everything down about the stages, exactly what I was about to talk about. So I would start. Most people don't understand what grieving is, right? I think you already nailed it on the head. It's a normal thing. It's normal. It's natural for people to grieve. So most people feel if you're grieving, then there's something wrong. No, it's normal to grieve. It's just a deep emotional response, and that is quite deeper than depression. Grief is different
Okay, so
from
that's something I
depression.
want you to explain better. So, what is the difference between the depression and grief, and the other depression?
The other depression already is not characterized most times by loss, and it's not so intense at the onset, but grief is intense right from that's the first thing you notice about it. Depression creeps in. You may not actually notice any serious intensity at the onset.
Okay.
You just discover that you're just sinking in, and just severe kind of depression. Mainly does not really characterized by any form of pain, somatoform pain or whatever. But grief comes with an intensity. It's intense. You can't help but understand that something is wrong. Okay, it comes with an intensity, especially if what you're grieving over, if the loss is something that is really dear to you, something that you already had an attachment, a strong attachment to. So that's the difference between the grief and depression. Then the depression in grief is comes with isolation.
All right.
That's when you understand. So that's the depression. The depression in grief basically is the isolation part. So when you just discover that you're isolating, and then that's just the isolation, because in grief you really don't hallucinate as such unless it becomes the disorder. So we're going to grief like the normal natural kind of grief. We are not talking about the disorder side of it.
Okay.
Okay. When hallucinate, you start delusing, then it's not. So, but the normal grief that we're saying is normal. There's no psychosis attached. In grief is just basically the isolation and not loving what you used to love.
Okay, so you just have the deep sadness, and you don't. Have there been some cases where those who are grieving also begin to exhibit some form of hallucination? Because some people will say they're hearing the dead person and they're seeing the person in the room. Is that doesn't that happen when you're grieving?
That is when it's now a disorder. The grieving at the onset don't start with those hearing and then seeing.
Okay.
It comes with just like we said, it follows the pattern
of the regular depression.
And then we think into the other before the person starts hearing. And for those who come up with psychosis immediately, then there is already an underlying mental health issue.
Oh, I see. So if someone already has, maybe somebody already has like maybe a borderline personality, and the person now goes through grief, the kind of depression they're gonna have is going to be a disorder, and not just that they're depressed, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's going to act like a trigger.
Okay.
To relax. Yes.
Okay.
That's when you start seeing psychosis. Imagine immediately why they are grieving.
I see.
For a grief that becomes a disorder, must have lingered for 6 months before they start hearing things, exhibiting those psychosis accompanied.
So do you think those that are seeing their dead ones like in the dream or something like that, do you think that is normal, or do you think that's a disorder?
It's not normal. We are not talking about face here. I'm not trying to jump on people's leg here, but when you start seeing things and hearing things, we say it's not normal. It's not normal to really have a contact with the dead in that sense. And most times, what they dream is actually like a flash memory
Okay.
of what they had, maybe their experience, the time that they had. So it comes in the dream, comes like a flash memory. So because of the state, the mental state of that person, the emotional state, they perceive as like they are actually really seeing them.
Mm.
Why in the real, it's not like they're seeing them, it's just like a flash memory. It's like a flash memory.
Okay, so what I'm hearing now is you're talking like as a psychologist. So, as a psychologist, you're saying it is not normal for them to be seeing the people and to be hearing them. That means that's delusion or that they're hallucinating as a psychologist. But based on faith,
Yeah.
when you begin to see the dead here and there, uh,
Yes.
you need deliverance prayers. Amen.
Not normal.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm hearing now is that the depressive disorder is different from the depression when you're grieving. Except you already have an underlying issues, mental health issues, and then the loss now triggers it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's why most times when you're trying to diagnose, they want you to be very careful so you don't mistake depression from grief. Okay.
Okay.
You may be seeing some symptoms and in depression, reoccurring as in is being exhibited in grieving, but for someone who is actually careful and a very professional person will understand that it's not the same.
Okay.
Because you see the symptoms coming, they are quite different. But if you're not experienced and you don't know, you would just say they are all the same. It's just like how do I explain? Normally, when you are diagnosing for depression, we have the normal blue mood. That the person is feeling blue or not in a mood to isolate, to relate, or is having issue with appetite or sleep. You can actually just call it a depressive disorder. It has to linger for a period of time consistently before you can actually say it's a clinical or depressive disorder.
Okay.
So
So
we all
what if
know
somebody
what
gets
people get.
depressed after losing someone and they get depressed for because there's certain people who will say they didn't mourn certain situation or they didn't mourn people and maybe they just keep on working and working and working so they can suppress the feeling of loss. And then maybe 2 3 years later they just lose interest in everything they're doing and they come to the therapist to say, well, I think it's because I didn't mourn those things and that's why I don't want to go to work anymore. I just find myself crying everywhere and every time. So how will you be able to differentiate if you'll be able to know if it's the depression as a result of grief, because the grief already, I mean, they already lost the person maybe a year or 2 years ago and they didn't go through all the stages. And all of a sudden they find themselves just crying and they don't want to work. How are you supposed to diagnose that? Is it the grief depression or depressive disorder?
I think what people don't understand is that in these stages, a particular stage can actually um, last for a longer period of time before the onset of another stage. Okay, so the person may be living in disbelief and in denial for a very long
time
period of time. A person may be angry for a long period of time. The person may be bargaining and trying to negotiate, asking the White House for a very long period of time before they come to the place of exhibiting the depressive symptom.
Okay.
Okay, so they didn't cry because they were living in, because if you're living in disbelief and denial, you may not experience or exhibit those emotions that shows you are crying or you are trying to eat your head. You're just, there's this stone-hearted, there's this lock-up emotion, there's this, it didn't happen, and so you're not accepting it. And so if you're not accepting it, there's no how the openness to thinking will actually be seen. Okay, so the person is just living in disbelief or denial, angry, bargaining, negotiating for a period of time. And so when that part is, and maybe you must, they must come to where they come into that depressive state. But people exhibit depression, like I said, in different ways. They may not cry, but they will isolate. They will no longer have pleasure doing most things that they used to do, especially when it reminds them of their loss. So people actually experience or exhibit depressive symptoms by trying to stay away from things that will remind them of that loss. So isolation may not actually be the social isolation in totality, like you will find in depression, but they are just, how do I call it? They are staying away from anything that will remind them of the loss.
Okay.
They stay away from places that they've been before. Some people will go there and cry, while some would not want to go there at all. So take me to somewhere, but I don't want to go to any places that would. So if they were usually very sociable, going out, hanging out with the person, the depressive symptom of isolation is going to come that they will no longer have interest in hanging out anymore. So they will start staying away.
So the depressive disorder still has it has the isolation. It's a general isolation, social isolation. You don't want to move with people. But when you're grieving, what you're saying is, you isolate only when it has to do with the loss.
For some people.
For some people.
The way people in these stages, that's why when you're actually trying to do therapy, you don't pick a general and generalize for everybody. It's individual based. Based person's response to the grief and the stages.
Okay.
So I might live in my own denial. It's quite different from the way someone else would live in their own denial. The way I get angry, it is quite different from the way someone else would get angry. The way I'm bargaining is quite, or negotiating is quite different from the way someone else would. The way I may fall into depression and isolation, like someone might actually do a general isolation, you just be staying indoors, don't want to eat, be unkept, don't want to go to work. Some people would still continue with going to work, but just leave me on my own. And when they're talking, they just fall into tears, they're crying unnecessarily, and you're asking what happened, why is tears just coming out from it, stuff like that. Some will just I don't want to have anything to do with any place being with this person.
I see.
Anything that will remind me of this place, isolate from others, it's actually individual thing. But you will see that they are in this state of denial. You will see that they're in the state of anger, and you will see that they're in the state of depression and isolation. You will see that they have come into the place of acceptance, and people accept differently. Now, the way you accept, people will be accepting to move on with life. Others will be accepting to give up on life. So
that's very hard. I want someone to, can you repeat that? You said there's some people that will accept to move on with life, and some will accept to give up on life. What do you mean by that?
The acceptance, when you come into the acceptance stage, is like, grieving is like you having a flu. It runs for 7 days. That cycle must be complete. No matter what you take, it's just to reduce the symptoms, but the 7-day cycle must run. So the stages of what must be completed. So it's how you pass through the stage is different. the resolution depends on the individual and the support system. Okay, so now stage of acceptance. People think accepting now is okay, I've moved on with life, I'm cool, the person is dead, so let's just continue with life. No, some people are accepting to give up on life. I can't live without this person. There's no reason to go on anymore. Wow, what am I living for? It's useless. I've accepted my fate that the person is dead, and so I'm accepting to die and die too. Others will be accepting that I know I am hurting so badly, and I have decided that this pain I will hurt others too. So it depends on what you accept. Others have accepted that okay, I've come to this place, this is not, and so I will decide I'm deciding to live my life a better way. Become better. The dream that the other person was unable to fulfill. So what it depends on your individual, it depends on individual response. So what you accepting. So when you come to that place of acceptance, as a therapist, you help the person, or you discover the person has come to the place of acceptance to understand and to know.
Okay.
So what is this state acceptance now? So you are here now. What have you decided? So you don't just okay, you have accepted your full, you want to know, so you help the person.
What about the people that don't go for therapy? What the people around the people grieving? How can they help them to get to the point of positive acceptance of this has happened? It's time to move on. What do you suggest the people around them should do?
We let them open up, let them cry. Don't allow them to bottle up. Okay, most times they want to bottle up. You need to let them open up. Tell them it's okay to open up. It's okay to ask why. It's okay to cry. I want to cry. It's fine. Validate what they are going through. But don't stop at validating what they're going through. Help them understand that, okay, so this is a phase. It's fine to feel the pain, but after the pain, you need to go on and carry on with life.
Do you do that immediately? If you validate their feelings, you let them cry, you let them do whatever they want to do. But how long do you accept? What about those that have refused to move on? 1 month, 2 months has gone, 3 months, they're still saying, oh my God, I don't know what to do with my life. I can't go to work. I can't do this. And you are probably a relative or a friend. How do you help that kind of person move on?
I think before we really dive into that, we want to know the why of the grieving. People grieve, and the intensity of the grief depends on what.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. The reason they're grieving matters, right?
The grief, guilt.
Mm.
Grief because of the guilt. Some grieve because of regret. I should have done this. I'm late. I didn't do this. Planned on doing this, and I didn't do it, and now this is it. Some actually that feeling of emptiness. Okay, now what would be the next of my life? My life is useless without this. I just feel frustrated. Some is hopelessness. This was the essence of my life. Now, what's the reason for living? So you would want to know the reason
why they're grieving. Okay, so that means it depends on the reason. The reason determines the duration of the grief. Is that what you're saying? That some people is guilt and regrets and
the duration and how to help them.
I see.
Because for some people, if it's regret or guilt, you need to take them back into the relationship.
Okay.
You need to help them to forgive themselves. You need to help bring them to the point where they are no longer accusing themselves. That's the only way the acceptance would actually lead to the positive side. Because some would want to give up on life or commit suicide as a pain. I deserve to. Why should I why should I continue living and be happy when I've caused this to happen? So that's the view. Take to come into a point of resolution where they forgive themselves, settle scores, and then come back to now say, now I can feeling any need for fulfillment. That's for the guilt and those who have regrets. But for emptiness and hopelessness, you have to let them see other things around them that they would anchor up and give peace.
Oh, this is a very important point. So you said for those that are regretting,
this person is still here.
Okay, that's for those that feel hopelessness and emptiness.
Yes, you help them see things around that they can still build on peace. Help them see reasons to want to.
I see.
Help on something else that would give them all. Let them know, like, why would you want to? This is left. This is this. That is that. Help them see the brightness in life and the reason to want to keep it. That's for hopelessness and
emptiness.
So
what I hear now is the duration of and the intensity of the sadness or depression is dependent on the reason why they're even depressed at all. That some people is regrets and guilt, and some people is emptiness and hopelessness. So for those that are empty and hopeless, you want to make them see the reason to continue living, other things they are living for, so they're able to come out of that of that pit and that hole to see that life is still worth living. Is that what I hear?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so for those that are they're in the state of grief right now and they are isolated, they don't have anybody around them. There's some people that even relocate, but wherever they are alone by themselves. What do you think they need to do to get out of that situation?
It depends on the extent that they have the extent. It's really dangerous to be alone with the grieving. You need to have support system around. And if you are someone who really don't have that, then you should lean back on your faith. That's why faith is very important. You should lean back on your faith. There's always a little light, even in the deepest darkness. You just need to open your eyes. Force your eyes open enough to see it. And that's the reason why we always tell people it's not like you're preparing for eventualities. It's not like you're anticipating, but you need to build your physically and spiritually to a point where you still see the light, no matter how thick the darkness is. You would situation where there are no support system around. You need to start doing it by yourself somehow. So that's just what I would say. So it's important to, like you would always say, and don't wait until the life happens. And just prepare yourself for to stand whatever shock that
Okay, so what we're saying here now is that you should never isolate. That means you should never isolate, and whenever you start doing it by yourself, um, you should lean on your faith.
Yeah, you leaning on faith, you need to open up your eyes. You need to be able to show the darkness. And no matter what you deep into, and if you discover that you're sinking into isolation, or you're gradually creeping into hating or not having pleasure in things you used to have pleasure before because of what you're grieving, then you need to push yourself to a point where you tell yourself, no, I won't sink into this darkness.
Mm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sure that we've heard a lot from Pastor Doka. Is I personally have gained a lot as a therapist, so that whenever someone comes in and they're grieving and they're exhibiting depression, it should not be diagnosed as a depressive disorder, except there has been some underlying issue before the trigger of a loss in that person's life. I've also heard that you, as a person, when you're depressed or when you're grieving, the reason you're grieving matters. Why are you grieving this loss? Why are you grieving this person? Why are you grieving a loss of yourself? Are you feeling guilty? Are you feeling regretful? Are you hopeless? Or do you think it's over for you? And so for you as an individual, you want to know what these reasons are, so you are able to know how to deal with it. She also said, try your best not to isolate. You can't isolate. You need people around you. What depression wants you to do is actually to isolate. She also explained the difference between the isolation of depressive disorder and isolation of grief. That whenever you're isolating from everyone, everything, you just want to be by yourself, you don't want to do anything, that may be the disorder. But if you're trying to isolate, and it's not everyone that does that, from things that remind you of the person or the things that you lost, that is grief. And one other thing that caught my attention is the fact that the acceptance, because we talked about the different stages of grief, that the first time you're in denial, and then you get angry, then you begin to bargain, and then you go into the depression before you accept. She said the acceptance may be the positive acceptance, and it can be the negative acceptance. The positive acceptance is, this thing has happened. You may still be feeling the pain, but you accept that it has happened. It's time for me to move on. And that you may also accept that there is nothing I can do about this situation. And so I will also give up on life, since there is nothing I can do about it. And so, Pastor Doka, what is the final word you want to give to people who are grieving and they're confused about life and they don't know what to do? I know you already said this is a time your faith comes to play, but I know there are a lot of people that they don't like God. Whenever they're grieving, the last person they want to talk to is God. They don't want to go to church because they don't want people to say things like, I understand what you're going through. And by the way, please never tell someone that is grieving, you understand. Somebody was telling me he lost his wife this month. He said somebody came and told him, I can imagine what you're going through. I can remember when I lost my friend. He lost his spouse of 40 years, and somebody is telling him he understands how he's grieving because he lost his friend, you will never be able to understand anybody's grief, even if you lost your own partner, because the relationship you have with your partner is different from the relationship the other person has with their partner. Don't tell someone, I understand you lost your job. I can remember when I lost my own job. That is, you're sounding a bit narcissistic. It's not about you. It's about the person. And don't tell the person you understand. You can't understand any other person's pain or loss. So all you need to do is to stay there with them and sit down with the pain, as they're feeling the pain. Let them know that you are available, you are there. Be the shoulder they can lean on. Give them a listening ear. Make them express themselves. If they want to cry, give them the permission to cry. Tell them that, see, I'm here. Assume I'm not here. Do whatever you've got to do. But don't say, I understand what you're going through. I feel your pain. Don't say such sentences. I feel your pain. I understand what you're going through because it happened to me, or it happened to my cousin, or it happened to my, the friend of my friend of my friend, the cousin of my cousin of my cousin. Please don't say things like that, because that can be very annoying and that is not good for someone that is grieving. Pastor Udoka, give us a final word.
It's okay to grieve.
It's okay to grieve.
And no one is saying you should just automatically detach, especially if it's a love. No one is saying you should shun or forget about the memories and the good times, but just understand that they would want you to live well and be good. And you owe it to yourself to live well and be good. You also need to talk about your pain. That's it, to live and live healthily. Okay, so it does not affect your mental health. Be open to express and talk about the pain. It's fine. So that's just what I want to say to anybody. If you discover that it's lingering, then please do seek help.
Thank you so much. It is okay to grieve. It is okay to grieve. It is okay to grieve. Please, if there is nothing you take away from this conference today, take this away. It is okay to grieve. It is okay to feel the pain. It is okay to, to be sad. It is okay to ask questions, but don't stay so long in it. Open yourself to help. Let someone help you in that situation. If you see that you are not able to cope, please reach out to Just Flaky Therapy on Wheels. Reach out to us and we will talk with you. We'll be able to help you in Ibadan. You can always reach out to Pastor Udoka. Please, if you're grieving, even if you didn't lose someone, maybe you lost yourself and you don't know what to do with yourself. All of a sudden, you don't remember your vision. You don't know why you're doing what you're doing. You've lost interest in everything. Or maybe you relocated and you don't know what to do with yourself. You just discover you wake up in the morning and, you feel so empty and you want someone to help you in this journey. Reach out to JTO, Just Flaky Therapy on Wheels, and we will help you to at least discover yourself one more time. Thank you so much, everyone on the YouTube, all of you on Facebook and Zoom. Thank you, Pastor Udoka, for being our guest and the host at the same time again at the MMM conference. MMM conference, we usually do it every second Sundays of the month, 3 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. West African Time. Look forward, mark it on your calendar. We're going to be doing it again next month, and we're going to pick another interesting topic on mental health. This is what we do. If you live in the city of Ibadan, we're opening a center at Ibadan whereby you can do your practicum. It's going to, especially for those that are doing psychology, so you can come in and sit in and experience relational therapy. Relational therapy. I know a lot of people go to the hospital and they only deal with people who are in the hospital having mental dysfunction, but you want also to expand your horizon. You want to know how to do therapy systematically. You want, it's systemic therapy whereby you check what is going on in the family of whoever you're seeing, and you want to help them recover using a systemic approach. And so if you want to do practicum with JTO, please also reach out to us at justflaky1@gmail.com. We're also going to be doing a training for those that then you're not, you didn't do psychology, but you want to be able to counsel people. So we'll be having a certification program whereby you learn how to counsel. Maybe you're a church pastor, or maybe you are in a position, maybe you're an employer, you're an HR person, and you want to be able to help those people that are around you, especially those that are having one dysfunction or the other. JTO is also here to help you. If that's what you're interested in, please also reach out to us at justflaky1@gmail.com. If you say, oh, I want to have that certificate, I want to be able to learn how to counsel people, we will be doing that in the month of June and July. It's something we always want to do. We just want to help you to help other people. We want to help you so that you can also recover from whatever you're going through. We love you so much, and we will see you next month, second Sunday of next month, 3 p.m. Central Time. This is MMM Conference. Pastor Doka was the one you were listening to before. She's a psychologist, and I am Reverend Dr. Olufolake Ike. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist supervisor in Texas. God bless you, and we'll see you again next month. Thank you, Pastor Doka.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.